Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm Ariella Mortkowitz, the founding director of SVIVAH. SVIVAH is about creating a more nourishing communal faith experience for Jewish women, where we define both Jewish and women very broadly. If you want to be with us, we want you to be with us and welcome. We love that we are multi-generational and diverse in our backgrounds and our affiliations, what brings us together, and we come together in celebration and support of women, our strengths, our unique ways of walking through the world and looking at the world, and our ways of contributing to the world. HerTorah is a SVIVAH program that is under the direction of the fantastic Rabbi Elisa Sperling. It is dedicated to bringing together our diverse community of women in community with each other over our foundational Jewish texts. Women who we may not have discovered in other reasons or other paths in our lives, but we get to come together in learning with one another and bringing our lived experience so that we can both learn from each other and with each other, discovering the things that we have in common and learning from the ways in which we differ. Celebrating a powerful, amazing, broad group of fantastic educators who gather us together around the HerTorah table. I get to give a fantastic thank you, first and foremost, to those who make HerTorah possible. Rabbi Elisa Sperling, who never ceases to amaze me with her thoughtfulness and creativity in building these amazing opportunities to come closer together in connection with each other and in community through learning. To Yeshivat Maharat for their partnership in raising the bar in excellence in Torah scholarship and elevating and valuing women's voices. And a big thank you to the Aviv and Covenant Foundations for their faith in HerTorah to create a unique way of learning together in community. Normally, we have HerTorah in yestertimes in person. Then we graduated to Zoom times, which was also a wonderful way to meet an even broader room of women who came from all over, not just the country, but the world, which was fantastic. But this month we're taking a departure from all of that because it's August and we have no idea where anyone is. I barely know where I am this month. So Rosh Hashanah is upon us in a hot second, but we wanted to take a minute to still come together in some sort of way and take advantage of this month of Elul that is in preparation for these high holidays that are upon us. And what we're doing is taking time with some fantastic, like I'm running through the roster in my head of scholars and thinkers and leaders who we get to just sit with for a minute and ask them to share with us what this Elul is like for them, how they are approaching the new year, and just glean from them for a minute selfishly so that we can take some of their wisdom with us into the new year. And today I am so excited that I get to have Rabbi Isabel de Koninck. See, there you go.
It's all
already. Isabel de Koninck with us. Names and me and whatever. We're just gonna go with it. But I get to have Rabbi Isabel de Koninck with us today, who I am so excited to introduce and to thank for making time in the beginning of a school year to come and hang out with us. Before I get to sing your praises for just a second, I want to just ask everybody to take a second and go to our website, svivah.org, and sign up for our mailing list, because we will gladly and excitedly send you all of these videos for all of these interviews right into your inbox. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook and join us there. But I'm going to make you blush for just a second, because I am so glad that you are taking time. You are the executive director and campus rabbi at Drexel Hillel, so this is not a slow day for you, from what I can gather. Where you also happen to be a professor and a Wexner fellow and all the amazing things. In addition to being a rabbi, you did graduate work in Jewish gender and women's studies. But I'm going to talk for a second about how on earth I know you, because I am a big fan from across Zoom land, despite never having had yet an opportunity to meet in person. I'm so glad that we actually got to share a room for a couple of months through the Shalom Hartman Institute's created Equal Fellowship, where I really was constantly and consistently grateful for and amazed by your breadth of knowledge and the way that you showed up in focusing on equity with so much compassion and a deep commitment to and trust in Judaism to have the answers to something that a conversation that was far from easy, that was often incredibly fraught. And in a group of very smart people, your voice constantly came across to me as one that really resonated with how important Torah and tradition was, even in this very modern overlay that is constantly a source of conflict and tension and often pain. And you were so honest in holding both at the same time, that yes, pain, yes, hard, yes, conflict, all of these things are true, as is faith that Torah and Judaism must have an answer. And I appreciated that so much. And so I'm so grateful to have you and your wisdom come today, and I get to poke you and ask you a little bit about what this new year is looking like for you. I know you're very much in New Year mindset. I'm waiting for you to like show me all the apples for the teacher on your desk. But I'd love, if you don't mind, would you share a little bit about just a reflection on either tshuva or what change looks like and feels like this year on the beginning of a moment of transition, just something.
Yeah. So for, I think, a lot of us, certainly for me, this whole year was a major disruptive, not just to like the everyday schedule and the way we typically do and interact, but that sort of, like trickled in deeply into my body, into my soul, into my, mental health, and kind of really pushed me to take a step back in a bunch of different ways. And then simultaneously, my organization is in this like amazing period of getting ready to grow again after being at sort of this wonderful plateau for a moment. So this sort of internal wrestling, and personal growth, and also thinking about organizational growth. So I spent some time working with an executive coach this year, because when you're doing both like organizational growth work and personal growth work, it turns out those folks can be pretty fantastic. And as I like walked into this Elul, something that the coach I'm working with, Cheryl Phillips, that she said to me at the end of July, as we were just coming into Rosh Chodesh, really resonated with me. She was helping me work through reaction I was having. It was to some work relationships, and just to sort of the way I was taking in information, taking in how folks were sharing, and then my own reactiveness. We all react in ways that we're really proud of sometimes, and in ways that we know aren't kind of moving the ball forward. That's really what this time of year is about, right? Like that deep, hard look in the mirror. And so as I was gazing deeply in the mirror at all the pores, and highly aware of my imperfections in this moment.
What do you mean?
This
is what
nothing,
Zoom is
especially
for.
on Zoom, right? It's like, how am I showing up here? But she said to me, as I was relating this story about what happened and, how I was reacting to it, she said, what else might have been going on for that person? Like, what are other ways that you could have read that moment? And that's not like a new framing, right? Like, how many people, have told us, therapists and friends and parents, like, well, what's a different read of that situation? Like, maybe you don't know what's going on in that person's world. Like, maybe something contributed to that, and you're overthinking it, you're overreading it, being paranoid. But as we learn from life, or Misilat Yesharim, or however you pick it up, sometimes it's those very obvious things that are the hardest to learn and most important to learn. But for some reason, in her framing it in that way, for me, it was like this light bulb moment that this whole year, I think for the world, certainly for me, has been living in this tension between suspicion and generosity in like my relationships with people, and in like my read of the world, right? So whether it's news about people who aren't vaccinating and like my immediate reactions, which are totally about suspicion, right? Like totally assuming that these people have something going on. You know, there's nothing generous about the way I initially reacted to that, and maybe that's okay, right? Like suspicion and generosity are both can like have a place, and also both are really misplaced sometimes.
Mhm.
And this world's disruption, I think, for me, really like it just resonated for me that I'm off kilter with that balance of like where the suspicion should go and where the generosity needs to come and where the generosity needs to be set aside in favor of the suspicion. Certainly, I mean, as a
Wow.
campus professional, you know, like there's a lot going on. My students have a ton going on in their own personal lives. Mental health is really hard right now. Anti-Semitism, Israel on campus, all of it, right? Um, and in our most even-keeled moments, I think those of us who work at it, whether it's spiritually or in therapy, you know, that being able to bring generosity in its fullness in its right times, God willing, that's most of the time, and suspicion when it's warranted. Like we're pretty good at knowing which one is the right one. And in this conversation with her, I just realized, oh, like that's what's been going on. Or one of the things that's been going on in my body this year. And like that's the thing I need Elul for, is to get that reset, so that I can let go of the suspicion in the places where it doesn't need to be and let the generosity come in so I can be present to the multiple narratives that might be going on for somebody who's showing up in a challenging way in my life, or in, you know, some other situation that I'm encountering. And that framing has really, it just played deeply for me this month. And I think has just helped me find some level of peace at understanding like what's been going on underneath, and away, not back, but out of that stuck cycle.
I think playing the role that you do, it's so funny because you're the first campus leader that I've had the opportunity to talk to in these interviews. And, you know, being an old fogey, I get to say like, oh, you hang out, you're leading, shepherding the kids, right? But in
Definitely not kids.
definitely
But yes,
not kids.
yes, I am shepherding a whole world of fabulous young adults.
But I think like the openness of the young adult community who are in their own world, in their own bubble together, of this, you know, it wasn't that long ago, of journeying and questioning and growing and just being around that mutual moments of growth and exploration, that's just known that that's what that time is about. You leading those people where I'm sure many of them look to you as having the answers, being not in a place of necessarily exploration, but stability and a resource that they can tap into time and again, rather than, you know, knowing that you are actually a deep, deep thinker who is probably constantly growing and seeking.
I hope so.
I think that it must be so challenging day in and day out to have that, like, you're with constantly people who are in flux, and who are coming to you for some sort of answer, some sort of response, some sort of something, and you have to gauge and assess who they are, where they are, what they're coming with. It must be exhausting and challenging to kind of understand how to show up for each of those individuals in each of those different moments. And especially, I think you're right, like this year on personal levels, we've been more distant from people. We've had, you know, a strange interface that took away from how we can normally read others. And we've just been responding to and reacting to each other while being so far apart and
Yeah.
not needing to exist together as much.
It's one of the things we've been talking a lot about, amongst the staff at My Hillel, are the ways in which all of us, you know, we talk about our students, but it's true for us also. We're out of practice, at interpersonal relationships face to face, and, hand to hand. And we are oversaturated with relationships that happen through bite-sized bits of texts and images. And we, our whole bodies, like, we just don't, in our worst moments, we don't realize that, and we don't give ourselves permission to sort of relearn. I mean, you think about the way any muscle works, right? If you don't exercise it, it's not as strong as it used to be. And if you go out and try to do all the things you used to do, you can hurt yourself. And I think that's true with our relationships. But we've been longing for it so much that there is a lot of running out at the first chance and like trying to do it all. And not shockingly, sometimes we get hurt in those moments because we are out of practice and those muscles have atrophied. And so we're thinking a lot about that on campus. We've seen it some with some of our students, and we know coming back to campus this fall with new freshmen who didn't even really develop those muscles in the ways that other high school students had a chance to, and who are longing for that. And it's so hard. And it's hard to be the clergy person who needs to kind of be the stable figure when the reality is this affected all of us, and we're all in that place of vulnerability and needing to relearn how to be with each other, how to support each other, how to be gracious in our interactions with each other, how to engage generously, how to assume the best of the person across from us, how to read body language. There are things that we forget that we knew, and that can tell us things. And instead we have the internet, which has been fantastic at like building our ability to be suspicious of other people and their motivations. And that's the strong muscle right now. Right. So I think a lot about it. I mess up a bunch. I think being able to apologize to students is one of the most, and probably for anybody who's in a leadership position, being able to apologize to the people that you work with, the people who, who look up to you, is one of the single most important things to learn, the hardest thing to do. And certainly a piece of this season as well. I think we're all going to make a lot of mistakes moving into the next year. And I guess I'm hoping that I will find generosity when others make mistakes with me, or with others in my presence, and that others will extend that generosity to me as well. And hopefully that all of us will like be able to get on the balcony enough to recognize like, oh, that motivation to suspicion and to like fear, and assumption making about whatever's going on, like that's coming from all of this pain and trauma and oversaturation of screens, and not from who I want to be in this moment. But it's easy to say that in a conversation with you. It's a lot harder when you're out there in the world with all of the stimuli and issues that matter, and still physical bodily safety on the line. Like none of this is easy. It's almost, and it's hard even figuring out what's going on. The easy part is saying it out loud once you've figured out what you think maybe is a piece of what's going on.
But I love that I think you even giving me permission to say like, okay, at least mark this month as this opportunity to flex some of those muscles, recognize you're going to get hurt, you're going to need those ice packs and Advil and whatever it is, but use this, mark this month as an opportunity to just test those muscles again, try them out again. So that we are ready to walk into a new year.
Right. And permission to go slow, right? Yeah. That it doesn't have to be 0 to 60. And sometimes it's about, doing that one thing well first, it doesn't have to be a giant room, or every person you ever had a relationship with in person. Because if we rush it, like we also don't do service to how much honor, how important the things we're feeling loss about, how important were they and are they to us? So to try to rush past the loss, there's so much, our gardens are overgrown. There's just like a lot of attentiveness that each one is going to need. And we're terrible at being patient. I'm terrible at being patient. I want to just be back to normal, probably as much as many other people, if not more so. But we have to do reentry, and we have to recognize what we're bringing from this year that needs to get left behind, or just the ways it's going to continue to mark us. And so we have to be aware of it showing up.
Can I ask you along those themes, what's some Torah that's either has held you through this past year or is holding you as you're moving into this next year?
Yeah, it's funny. So more often than I could ever imagine when I first encountered this particular poem, like this short, tiny little piece of poetry comes back to me, and I can sort of trace it through a lot of moments that are kind of challenging and difficult, and also just beginnings and endings. But there's a piece, a very short piece by Yehuda Amichai in Open, Closed, Open, where it's a very short poem, but I won't read the poem. I won't do it justice. But where he says that he wants to add two more commandments to the 10. That the 11th is you shall not change, and the 12th is that you must change. And the way the poem goes, he teaches it as if it's something that his father, who's already passed on, has also taught to him, like also believed in that. And my students, I remember early on when I was working on campus, I was at Bryn Mawr and we were having dinner one night, and one of my students, in a way that's like sort of classic Hillel, said, like if you were going to choose one to be 13, like if you got to choose one to be 13, what would it be? And of course it was Bryn Mawr, so it wasn't really about like, here are the 613, which would you make 13? It's like, what's the thing that's most important that should have been 13? I don't care if the rest of the list. It was a fascinating conversation. Or number, what's going to be 11, right? Like we've got 613, what's going to be 11? Like what's the next one? And it's definitely not on that list, which was a whole other conversation. The spoiler is at Bryn Mawr, they were very clear that the 11th should be do not rape. Not shockingly, that's a little bit of a complicated one for Torah itself, but for me, at least in this stage in my life, and truthfully, many moments of growth, it's those twins, right? That we have to live in between those. Both of those things are true all of the time, and we live between them. In the in-between space of needing to never change, and being commanded to change. And that, maybe always at the high holidays, always in big moments of disruption, moments where you need a little courage, moments where you want to stand your ground, right? All of those, it just feels so real, that what should come after 10, where like, we know what the 10 are, but it's this existential statement about being, and connecting a sense of commandedness.
Yeah.
To that.
Yes. The must.
It's not that like you shouldn't change and you should change, but like you must not change and you must change. And it's one of those things that on its face kind of fundamentally true about life and who you are as a person. But then when you actually go about the business of living it in an active way, you realize, oh, this is about decisions I make in every moment of every day.
Yes. I think the idea of my brain is bending trying to think about holding those two statements true in all of the facets of my life, and like that's what Elul is supposed to be about. What are the pieces of myself that should not change, that cannot change, and what are the pieces of myself that I must change?
Yeah. And sometimes at this season we lean into the like, what do I have to change? And we forget that like, but the anchor is what you're not going to change, even in the face of all of the stuff that might be trying to change it. And at other moments in time, we get stuck in the not changing. And it is some seriously hard spiritual work to get high enough above yourself or out of yourself to know the difference. And that's why you need chavrusa. That's why you need friends. That's why all this relationship stuff is so important to begin with, because we kind of can't do it by ourselves. And I actually think that that's part of what's going on in the poem also, right? That he knows this, like it's inherited tradition from his father. And his father is dead, right? Which is a sort of a profound, on the one hand, unchangeable thing. And on the other hand, the memory of his father and how it affects him, like it's still always changing. Even then, even in death, in its finitude, somehow our existence, continues to change in the ways that those who are living are continuing to be changed by our memory. Like that's also time warpy intense. I know you and I talked about this a little bit earlier, but like it's also true of Torah. It doesn't change, but also it absolutely does. Yeah. It's crazy, but it's
Yes, and it's that challenge of finding that sweet spot in between. It permeates so many different facets of life, like thinking about how different tomorrow can be, how different we are after the year we've traversed. And also, did we come back to ourselves?
Right.
Did we come back to something steady that we rediscovered is critical to our essence, that we got distracted by for so many other reasons? We could talk for 700 days about the changeability of Torah and the permanence of Torah. And the self-reflection, I'm hoping you can see, I'm already like, my head is going there and I'm just like, I need to rewind to the beginning of Elul to have enough time to just unpack all of that. That is some profound Torah, and I'm hoping that you'll be nice and send me that.
I will send you the poem. For those who are Amichai fans, it's an open, closed, open, which is also, it's Amichai's last book. And there's something about sharing that kind of message in that moment in his life. And it's
thank you. Thank you for this. I'm going to hold that with me and take it with me for the rest of this month. And hopefully that's something worth putting on a wall somewhere to remember every day.
Yeah. Well, always a pleasure sharing Torah with you. And
I'm so grateful. Thank you for making time. I'm hoping that this year is a successful and healthy and sweet one. A Shana Tova to you, to your family, to your students, to everybody on campus. We're wishing everybody good luck. To everybody who's listening, thank you for joining us. I hope that you will take a minute so that we can send all of the other goodies of amazingness and inspiration for the rest of this month on our website, SVIVAH.org. If we see you back, great. If we don't, then let me take this opportunity to wish everybody also a Shana Tova. May it be sweet, may it be good, and may this be a month that's inspired with some deep and gentle introspection. Thank you so much, Rabbi.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Such a pleasure. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.